Imagine waking up 25,000 years ago. The sun has just begun to rise. Cold morning air drifts through the trees. A fire still glows faintly from the night before. There is no phone waiting beside you. No clock reminding you of appointments. No television, no books, no radio, no music streaming through headphones, no endless scroll of short videos competing for your attention. The world is astonishingly quiet. After breakfast, your group leaves camp. Some people follow fresh animal tracks. Others gather roots, berries, nuts, and edible plants. Children stay close to experienced adults, watching carefully as every task becomes another lesson about survival. Hours later, everyone returns. The hunt is over. The day's food has been prepared. Tools have been repaired. Nothing urgent remains. The fire burns softly beneath the stars. Now what? Do people simply sit in silence? Do they become bored? Or is boredom itself something that has changed throughout human history? At first, the answer seems obvious. Of course, ancient humans became bored. After all, boredom is part of being human. But psychologists argue that boredom is far more complicated than simply having nothing to do. Today, boredom is usually defined as the unpleasant feeling of wanting to engage in something meaningful but being unable to find satisfaction. That definition hides an important detail. To become bored, you first need choices. You need expectations. You need to imagine that something more interesting should be happening. Modern life constantly creates those expectations. Every notification promises excitement. Every new video competes for your attention. Every spare minute offers hundreds of possible distractions. When all of those options fail to satisfy us, boredom quickly appears. But the world experienced by hunter-gatherers was fundamentally different. For most of human history, daily life rarely divided itself into clear categories of work and leisure. Survival depended on hundreds of small activities that blended naturally into one another. A spear rarely remained sharp forever. Animal hides constantly needed scraping and sewing. Stone tools required reshaping. Wooden handles cracked. Firewood had to be collected. Water had to be carried. Food needed cleaning, drying, smoking, or roasting. Even during quiet moments, hands often remained busy. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have repeatedly observed this pattern. People are rarely completely idle. Instead, they shift naturally between many smaller tasks throughout the day. A conversation may happen while repairing a fishing net. A story may be told while preparing food. Children learn by helping adults rather than waiting for formal lessons. The boundary between work, learning, and entertainment becomes surprisingly difficult to separate. This challenges one of the biggest assumptions many of us have about prehistoric life. We often imagine that ancient humans spent only a few hours hunting before having endless free time. The reality was almost certainly far more complex. Finding food was only the beginning. Meat spoiled quickly without preservation. Animal skins needed processing before becoming clothing. Stone blades eventually became dull. Shelters required maintenance after storms. Even identifying which plants were safe demanded constant attention. Every season brought new challenges. Every landscape demanded different knowledge. In many ways, surviving in nature required becoming a careful observer of the world itself. Clouds hinted at changing weather. Bird calls revealed nearby predators. Animal tracks recorded invisible movements across the landscape. A broken branch or unfamiliar scent might provide information that meant the difference between success and failure. Attention was constantly rewarded. Perhaps this is one reason boredom may have felt different for our ancestors. Their environment was never truly static. A modern living room often changes very little from one day to the next. A prehistoric forest changed every hour. The direction of the wind, fresh footprints in the mud, ripening fruit, migrating animals, new flowers, approaching storms. Nature continuously presented small mysteries waiting to be understood. Curiosity itself became part of survival. Yet even after every task had been completed, every meal shared, and every tool repaired, the night still arrived. Darkness covered the landscape. The fire became the center of the world. And around those flames, something remarkable began to happen. Not work, not hunting. Something that may have shaped human civilization more than almost anything else. Stories. Stories may have been humanity's first form of entertainment, but they were far more than entertainment. Imagine sitting beside a campfire 20,000 years ago. The flames flicker against the walls of a cave. Children lean forward. Adults listen quietly. An elder begins speaking. Perhaps the story describes a successful hunt from many winters ago. Perhaps it warns about a valley where dangerous predators once waited. Perhaps it explains why certain stars appear during particular seasons. Or perhaps it tells of spirits, ancestors, or animals that existed only in imagination. Today, we often separate stories into fiction and fact. Ancient people probably did not make such a clear distinction. A story could entertain. It could teach. It could preserve history. It could explain the unknown. Most importantly, it could be remembered. Anthropologists have long argued that storytelling became one of humanity's greatest survival technologies. Unlike written language, stories require no paper. Unlike monuments, they cannot be destroyed by weather. They travel inside human memory, generation after generation. Long before maps existed, stories described rivers, mountains, migration routes, and dangerous places. Long before biology, stories identified poisonous animals and useful plants. Long before written laws, stories explained acceptable behavior within the group. A child who listened carefully around the fire inherited knowledge gathered over hundreds of generations. In many ways, every campfire became a classroom. Yet stories were only one part of life after sunset. There was also music. Many people assume music appeared only after civilization. Archaeology tells a different story. Some of the oldest known musical instruments are flutes carved from bird bones and mammoth ivory. Several have been discovered in caves across Europe. Some are more than 40,000 years old. That means humans were making music before farming, before cities, before writing, even before the construction of monuments like Stonehenge or the pyramids. And those ancient flutes almost certainly do not represent the beginning of music. They represent only the earliest instruments that survived long enough to become fossils. Human voices are much older. Clapping requires no tools. Rhythm requires nothing except hands, feet, and other people. Many researchers suspect singing may have accompanied human life for hundreds of thousands of years. Nobody knows exactly what those songs sounded like, but their purpose may have been surprisingly practical. Singing together strengthens social bonds. Rhythmic movement helps groups coordinate actions. Shared music reduces tension. It encourages cooperation. Even today, soldiers march together. Athletes chant together. Parents sing to children. The emotional power of rhythm has never disappeared. It may simply be one of humanity's oldest instincts. Then there were games. When we hear the word game, we often imagine boards, cards, or video screens. Ancient games looked very different. Children chased one another through forests. They practiced throwing stones. They balanced on fallen logs. They climbed rocks. They copied animal movements. They wrestled. At first glance, these activities appear to be simple play. Evolutionary psychologists see something deeper. Play allows young animals to practice survival without facing real danger. Lion cubs wrestle before hunting. Young wolves chase each other long before joining the pack. Human children are no different. A game of throwing stones may quietly improve accuracy needed for hunting. Running races strengthen endurance. Pretending to stalk imaginary animals teaches patience and observation. Even adults likely continued many of these activities. Competitions sharpened skills. Friendly challenges strengthened relationships. Laughter reduced conflict. Without realizing it, people were preparing for tomorrow's survival while enjoying themselves today. Perhaps boredom was not eliminated. Perhaps it was transformed. Because almost every enjoyable activity also served another purpose. Entertainment became education. Play became training. Conversation became memory. Music became cooperation. And all of it happened without anyone needing to invent the idea of free time. Yet one form of human expression remains even more mysterious. It survives today on cave walls across the world, painted thousands of years ago, by people who almost certainly had imaginations every bit as rich as our own. The paintings left behind by ancient humans raise one of the greatest mysteries in archaeology. Why did they create them? Deep inside caves across Europe, Indonesia, Australia, and many other parts of the world, archaeologists have discovered extraordinary images: horses, bison, mammoths, deer, handprints, symbols whose meanings have long been forgotten. Some paintings were created more than 30,000 years ago. Others may be even older. Many appear in places that are surprisingly difficult to reach: narrow tunnels, dark chambers, deep underground where no sunlight ever entered. These were not decorations for everyday living spaces. They required effort, planning, pigments collected from distant locations, torches to illuminate the darkness. So why make them? No one knows for certain. Some researchers believe the paintings formed part of religious ceremonies. Others think they recorded successful hunts. Some argue they taught younger generations to recognize important animals. Still others suggest they may simply have been expressions of creativity. The truth may include all of these possibilities. What matters is something even more remarkable. Ancient humans consistently devoted precious time and energy to activities that were not immediately necessary for survival. That alone tells us something profound about the human mind. People did not live only to eat. They also created. They imagined. They wondered. Perhaps they even sat quietly, doing nothing at all. Modern psychologists sometimes call this mind wandering. It happens when attention drifts away from immediate tasks. Many of us experience it while looking out of a window, watching waves roll onto a beach, or staring into a fireplace. Interestingly, studies suggest that these quiet moments often encourage creativity. Ideas connect in unexpected ways. Problems solve themselves almost unconsciously. Now imagine a prehistoric evening. The day's work is finished. The fire crackles softly. Smoke rises into a sky overflowing with stars untouched by artificial light. Someone quietly sharpens a stone blade. Another hums a familiar melody. A child watches sparks disappear into the darkness. Nobody reaches for a phone. Nobody checks notifications. Nobody feels pressure to fill every silent moment. Instead, the silence itself becomes part of the experience. Perhaps ancient humans sometimes felt bored. There is no reason to believe they were emotionally different from us. The human brain has always searched for stimulation, novelty, and meaning. But the world surrounding that brain was dramatically different. Nature constantly provided unpredictable sounds, movements, weather, and wildlife. Communities were small. Face-to-face conversations were unavoidable. Entertainment was rarely consumed alone. It was created together. Today, the situation has almost reversed. Never before have humans possessed so many ways to escape boredom. Television, movies, video games, music streaming, social media, artificial intelligence. An endless supply of entertainment now fits inside a device small enough to carry in a pocket. Yet surveys consistently show that many people still describe themselves as bored. This creates an unexpected irony. Perhaps boredom is no longer caused by having too little stimulation. Perhaps it is increasingly caused by having too much. When every quiet moment is immediately filled with another notification, another video, another headline, or another scroll through social media, the brain gradually begins expecting constant novelty. Ordinary moments start feeling unusually empty. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Waiting becomes frustrating. Stillness becomes something to avoid. Our ancestors almost certainly experienced waiting very differently. Waiting beside a river for fish, waiting for migrating animals, waiting for rain, waiting through long winter nights around the fire. Patience was not wasted time. It was simply part of life. Perhaps that is the real lesson hidden inside this forgotten question. Ancient humans probably laughed. They sang. They danced. They carved wood and stone. They painted cave walls. They played games with children. They watched flames flicker beneath endless stars. They shared stories that survived thousands of years without ever being written down. And yes, sometimes they were probably bored. But unlike us, they rarely carried an entire universe of distractions wherever they went. Maybe the more interesting question isn't what ancient humans did when they got bored. Maybe it's why modern humans, surrounded by more entertainment than any generation in history, still are.